Radio.
Good evening, everybody. Danny with me tonight, and I am totally psyched to have with us the Lauralee Bell from The Young and the Restless. Needs no further introduction. How are you, Lauralee?
I'm doing so great. Monday night, you know, some people are like, oh, it's Monday, but now, look, we're having so much fun already.
I know. I'm so psyched to have you. I've been watching you since I was, a certain age.
It's not, I know, yeah. I get people that look around my age and say, I've been watching you since I was, 4 or something, and then it's like, thank you. But I mean, that's a compliment. Listen, I grew up on the show, so what can I expect?
Yes. Now speaking of that, I guess my first question was, now, how much pressure was it, or was it difficult for you being the daughter of Bill and Lee Bell to come on to the show? And
yeah, I mean, it definitely created like a strange scenario, I suppose. I mean, I think one of the nice things is that I started very slowly. So I was on for 2 days and then I'd leave for a few months because we were still living in Chicago. But, as my character became on more, it was definitely, I sort of put pressure on myself to always be extremely prepared and even if I wasn't so thrilled with my cricket attire for that day, I wouldn't say anything or, things like that. But, I mean, I got it. I understood that people were sort of skeptical and wondering whether I would, listen, see what happened at the set and then come home and, report in. But it wasn't like that at all. I was sort of on their side and there wasn't really much to report and, I just really wanted to be treated like everyone else, so I would really avoid like saying my last name. I did really crazy things, like I'd be like Lauralee and never say my last name, and if a parent was around or something, I would kind of run the other way, and it was just so silly because I'm so I was just young and stupid and just trying to be taken as my own person, but now older, I'm so proud of my parents that. Hopefully they never saw any of that immature behavior because I would hate to think that I was super, super proud of them. But that was my way of dealing with it at, 12.
Well, I've heard, I've interviewed a lot of your cast mates, past and present, and they've all said that, you were just awesome to work with, and, you're notorious spelling by any means.
Well, I guess that's sweet. Although I've met Tori, and she's a Y&R fan, or she was a Y&R fan. She's very sweet. So, but I know. I meant like that. Okay, now we know you have an issue with Tori, whatever.
No, it's the whole thing. Auditioned under a fake name, like they didn't know who Darren Spelling's daughter. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff.
I get it. I always compare it to like, I always say this and people are like, yeah, I never really thought about it that way. But like if there was a dad that was a doctor and the son wanted to be a doctor, everyone would go pat the dad on the back. Yay, he's coming into your field. That's so exciting. But when it's in the acting business, it's like, oh, you want to work with your family. It's a whole different ballgame. And people are really creeped out about it and write nasty things. So, if I didn't get it, I would be horrifically offended. But, I got the situation, but I had to work hard to prove otherwise. So it's nice to hear that people gave me the chance.
Yeah.
Do you still ever feel like you have to do that? Like even now?
I don't know. I mean, my mom had a talk show in Chicago for like 30 years. And one of the lessons she taught me very young was, you really, like, of course you care about what other people think, but she really taught me how to sort of let stuff like that go, because people are involved in their own lives, and what are they having for dinner tomorrow night, and what time does their kid have to be at school, and did they finish their report for work, that, they're not obsessing about whether your parents got you on the show, so I learned to sort of let that go. I mean, I would love to try and have the chance to say, if you really think like I don't work hard, can you just watch this scene and like then make your judgment? Like maybe I would like to say something like that to someone who would give me some sort of obnoxious comment at this point in my years. But the reality is like, I can't, I don't worry about that. I feel like it was a lot of fan mail that sort of brought my character and then Nina and Philip on. So, I was definitely I had a lot to learn at the beginning, but I was grateful that it was the fans that were happy that there was a real, like, young storyline. So, that was a compliment in itself. So, I mean, yes and no. I get it, but I would like to prove myself and then say, okay, now do you still feel that way? And then if they do, screw them.
I think by now you've definitely proven yourself. It's funny you should say how the acting field is different, because I'm sure your brother, Brad, who took over B&B, didn't have the same thing, the same issue.
Right.
It's like,
exactly.
Okay,
I mean, he's winning Emmys left and right. Yeah, exactly. But he did have to sit in the conference call rooms of the writers with my dad for years before my dad would let anything that he did get on the air. So he put in.
I heard that.
Yeah. No, my dad was tough. Listen.
Yeah, he was brilliant. I mean, everybody's been saying, they can't recapture the magic that he had when he was on the show. And is it difficult for you when you work on the show now without your father running it? I mean, do you feel like you want to have a little more creative input, or?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there are definitely days where, I remember in prime Y&R days where, like, when it was the Friday and it was the last scene, you would, like, be agonizing that you would have to wait until Monday because you couldn't believe how it was going to end. And, do I think that still exists? Everyone's doing their best, and I think obviously the show is continuing to be number one, and there's a lot of excitement. But I think we all learn these lessons that until the people are gone, you take it for granted. And my dad was always spoken so highly of, but I think until he passed away, people were like, oh my gosh, like he had something you really can't teach other people. And when I was talking to Michelle Stafford the other day, and I'm sad to hear that she's leaving. I mean, we all sort of know that, like, I don't know. I mean, that way of storytelling was just so intense and so dynamic, and we got to take longer time with scenes and build characters in just a different way. But now the world just moves so fast, so I think they want television to move so fast, and it's just a different day. And so I'm so happy that Y&R is still number one. But yeah, there will never be another Bill Bell. Is definitely a true statement.
Now, somebody else on Twitter, I think I know the answer to this, but I want to ask you, how much input creatively does your mother have still on Y&R? Because I know, doesn't Sony own the majority of the show?
My mom, right. My brother has complete run of Bold and Beautiful. And Sony, my mom really has no creative input anymore. She's there every day, but she's in the Bold and Beautiful offices, and she is dealing with a lot of, she deals with a lot of fan mail and social issues, and is just sort of a great, she's sort of control, like just seeing her is sort of comforting for everyone to know that she's there every single day. And she has, her different roles and speaks up when she needs to, but creative wise, like we have a whole different set of writers at Young and Restless. So that's that.
Yeah, well, I got to interview Josh Griffith a little while back, and it was really interesting to hear what he had to say. He seems to have a good grasp on the characters, and he knows that it's still a work in progress.
Absolutely, right.
Now, Christine is now the DA, and I was wondering, I like it when Christine gets nasty. Gets, with Phyllis.
Nobody likes that more than me.
I bet. It must be nice because they used to call you Christine for so many years,
And trust me, as annoyed as people were with my kindness, no one was more annoyed at myself than me. I just, when I would see like a speech about, like doing good things at Danny Romolatti's concert and preaching all these things, it was really hard. However, it was my dad's call, and in the end, like those summer ratings were extremely high, and kids were learning a message. So it was really hard because, Nina's character was like so fun, and I had to go up there and be preachy, and, for every Nina, you need a cricket. And so, not that I didn't love my character, but some days it was very hard to play. So as soon as Phyllis came into the picture, and as soon as Michael Baldwin, and we would have battles in the courtroom, like myself personally and the character just became so much more interesting. So yeah, I love a good fight, and I will miss those with Phyllis if that's the case.
I think they need to have Cricket go on a bender and do something completely outrageous and scandalous.
I think
so. Like what? Maybe.
Well, it was funny because Paul and I spoke about, like, you know what? He was like, I'm done with wearing suits. I'm like, and I'm done with being a lawyer. Let's be crazy. And then like 2 weeks later, we were like, I'm the new DA. I'm the chief of police. We are crazy.
You know, that was like when they changed the writing regime, and Christine and Danny were getting back together, and then did a 180. It was like, okay,
oh my God,
the new writers think a few things, but
it was so funny. Yeah, I felt bad for Michael. We were like, okay, we can rekindle this thing, and then the next week it's like, actually, I don't really love you. But you know what? I'm glad she hopped in bed with him. Like, to me, that's character building. That's showing that that Chris is kind of, she has that wild side inside of her.
Yeah, that was totally not something she would have done 20 years ago, you know?
Yeah, yes, I do know.
And I love Michael Damian. He's actually the reason I started watching the show, because Rock On was, I think, #1 in the country. And as a kid, I wanted to be a rock star and a soap star, just like him and Rick Springfield. So that's what got me into YNR. And the first story... Yeah, he knows that too, because I've talked to him several times.
But he kept watching because of you, I guarantee you.
Rob loves you. Because of you, Brenda Epperson and Tracy Bregman, you know. But
all right, I'll share you with us.
Okay, you know, you're all gorgeous. One of the first storylines I remember of Christine's or Cricket back then was the date rape storyline, which I think that was really ahead of its time, because I mean, maybe I was just really young. But
are you talking about when Michael Baldwin raped her?
No,
actually there was a different guy named Derek.
Yeah.
Okay.
Derek.
Yeah.
They were on a date, and you know, this was like, he raped Christine, and she was a virgin, so she lost her virginity to rape. So it was really powerful. And I was just a kid, and then all of a sudden I remember on the news, like, date rape being acknowledged. It seemed like the show kind of brought this issue to light. Maybe it was just because maybe it's just because I noticed it more from the show, but do you think it had an impact on society?
Well, I mean, you know, like, especially with like fan mail and stuff, it's always, as much as I love doing these message storylines, it's like suddenly a huge, you know, responsibility, because then you'd get these girls that had these real life situations, and I would be so nervous about answering them back correctly, and just, you know, because I didn't want to mislead or act like I completely knew what they were going through. All I can say is, you know, when we shot that scene, I told the actor Ken, I said, listen, like, nobody can think that I'm, you know, going, ow, or anything that doesn't really hurt. So he really was extremely aggressive, and, you know, that was fine. And the next day, it was written in the script to have bruises, you know, all over my arms, and they didn't have to put them on. Like, his fingers, like, I had bruises everywhere. And so even though that it doesn't even come close to, you know, a horrific incident that some of these girls had written about, you know, we tried to portray it as much as possible. But no, I think as soon as, you know, I mean, I don't even want to talk about what came out in the news today about Michael Douglas, but like, as soon as you bring a topic up, people are wanting to come out of the woodwork and be like, "This happened to me, this happened to me." So yeah, I feel like the show, I think, once you acknowledge it, it does come out in the news, and people are saying, like, "Thank God I'm not alone," and, you know, here's my story. So yeah, I think all those storylines, and my mother dying of AIDS, I mean, I think all those things had an impact on it just being talked about, which is great.
That was so ahead of the time, having just have AIDS. I remember that too.
I know. And she's so cool.
And then of course your brother Scott Granger, Christine's brother Scott Granger, was entangled with Sheila Carter, the ultimate villainess of daytime. Did you have any fun scenes with Kimberlyn Brown? I remember some of those.
Yeah, I didn't really get to play with her. I mean, it would have been fun. I feel like she could be. She was like Phyllis worthy, maybe a little crazier. But no, I mean, I got to see her all the time, of course, at work. But no, I don't think she may have, you know, snarled at me in a group scene, but that's about it.
Yeah. That's funny, because that was a question I had from a Twitter fan. Like, you know, if they brought Sheila back, she thinks that there could be a lot of animosity between her and Christine.
That would be good.
Now, I was wondering, I figured as a DA, Christine would be all hell-bent on trying to scrutinize her. So, Phyllis, if you were to dig deep enough, you could get her on some technicality.
I'm sure I could. But, there's something weird. Like, I almost did a couple months ago, and then I felt so bad for her children, like that I would put her in jail for the rest of her life. So there's still that sweet essence of Chris that didn't want to do that to her. But I say once her kids are old enough to not need her, which is probably now, she should just go away in that orange jumpsuit. Well, actually, that may happen. It makes me so sad. I can't imagine the possibility of not duking it out with Michelle anymore. Like, that's just that's my release. That's like if I have children in real life, my release is going to work and yelling at Phyllis.
Well, they got to write in a knockdown drag out.
Yeah, you better have a couple finals.
I have no work days, and she ends in a couple weeks, so it's not.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Maybe we could film a little something off camera for everybody.
You do a little YouTube.
You totally should. Angelica will put it up there.
That would be so
Angelica
funny.
could put it up. I love the scene when it was you, Michael Damian, and Michelle Stafford, Tracy Bregman, and Christian LeBlanc, and Think Doug Davidson at the Genoa City Athletic Club, which I love that name.
Yeah, not too long ago, right?
Yeah, and the line where Laura's like, I've slept with everybody here, and I don't feel weird.
I know. It's so funny, because it's like anyone who's watched the show that long, those are priceless comments. You cannot, come out with a better line than that.
Oh, Tracy said she had to fight for it to keep it. They wanted to cut it.
Oh, I know. Isn't that crazy? We're pushing the envelope in so many things right now. It's like, it was a brilliant line.
I love the scenes, like the group scenes when you and Phyllis were getting into it, and it was like, then Lauren makes that crack. That was a great scene with all of you together.
And so, wait, do you watch the show at like 11 or 11:30, or do you TiVo it?
Or
watch it on SoapNet or whatever?
CBS.com.
Got it.
Yeah. I never know when, but 5 p.m. Eastern every day, it's up there reliably. So thank you, Angelica.
That's perfect. Yes, exactly.
I wish the other networks were that good with it, But so I saw today's. And now, when do you know when you'll be coming back as DA?
No, I don't know. I mean, they're really concentrating on other storylines right now, and I don't mind because I have so much going on in my life. But I want to see more of Doug. I miss, I'm a fan too. So when I watch the show for a while and I don't see enough of Paul, I get angry.
Well, Doug said that you were his favorite out of all his love interests over the years.
That's sweet. We're very, very. You did? We're very good buddies. Yeah. We talk all the time. So it's hard because when we don't work, we don't see each other, and that's it's weird because we've spent so much time together, and he's always like, "What are you doing? What's going on with the kids?" And back and forth. And so when we can meet in the hair and makeup room or dressing room before scenes, we can catch up. But it's been almost 2 months where we won't work together. So I don't know. People have to write in and say you want more. At least write in and say you need more Paul. I don't care about myself, but I need more Paul. Hopefully he'll win that Emmy. Hopefully he'll win that Emmy next month.
I know.
Yeah.
4 times. 4 times. Yeah.
He hasn't won yet, but he's been nominated a lot.
I know. He's so good. And this year with the whole son thing, and it was so good.
Mm-hmm.
So fingers crossed.
Yes. Now, did you always know that you wanted to be an actress? I mean, you were growing up in this Hollywood or,
we were in Chicago, but I would do things like watch the show 7 times and watch how people would do their scenes, and I would put on plays in the living room. But I think, subliminally, when I would listen to my father call Los Angeles and say to the producer, here was today's show. This scene between Ashley and so-and-so, it was great, but I wanted a little this at this moment. And then when, Rex was talking to Mrs. Chancellor, I wanted this. And so I would sit there and listen because I was so fascinated by, and then I'd go back sometimes and watch the show and be like, okay, I see what he was talking about. So I don't know whether things like that just made me just, curious about the emotions and all of that. But, I was constantly doing something. I was either putting on little plays or art shows or something. So I suppose it's just in you.
Did you ever have to take formal acting lessons, or were you able to pick it up from being so close to the business?
Well, after I started taking acting lessons. The best way to learn is on the job, but I took acting lessons and singing lessons and voice lessons and dancing lessons and, all of those things. But just by, being around the group was the best way for me to kind of evolve. And it's weird. It's like, even if you take the lessons, once you're in front of a camera, sometimes you feel uncomfortable about putting your hands up in the air and making silly faces. And then once you get to past that point of making yourself, first silly face or waving your hand up over your head, and you realize, like, it's okay, you're not stuck in this little box, it's so freeing. So that's just something sometimes you just have to keep doing to learn. But, like, I love auditioning now because I love that process, and then I hope someone will give me a note, and then I can adjust the scene and make it totally different. Like Christian LeBlanc and I, our favorite days were when we'd have a scene and they'd come out and say, you know what, you kind of played it angry at each other, like add a little sexual tension or something in there, and then the scene would be completely, same lines, completely different. And we would look at each other and be like, oh my God, like, can you believe that? It was just, it was so night and day from take one. And so, like, I would be on, like, a high, like, driving home. Like, that was so, like, it was just, it's feelings like that just make you love your job. And not wait, and, like, can't wait to get home and learn 30 more pages for the next morning, because people always forget how much homework is involved. It's a serious memorization task. And once you have children, and we were talking about, like, dogs and sleepless nights, it's really hard to memorize like that. So being on not as much is okay with me right now, because I just don't know if I could handle, like, a big trial or anything. I would hope I could, but I doubt myself a little bit.
I think it'd be great if they gave Cricket a little PTSD from the rape, or, like, made her have multiple personalities or something.
Yeah, something crazy, right?
Right.
There's
Michael Baldwin.
Yeah, a mysterious gene that's been floating in my body.
Yeah, right. Now,
or she's got a really stressful case, and it all just blows up.
Exactly.
That could happen. She's wound up a little tight lately. Now, I've noticed over the past few years since you left since you were on contract and then you left the show, but you were recurring.
Right.
Unlike some recurring actors who would just show up once or twice a month, you would come back for, like, 2 or 3, 4 months with, like, major storylines, and then leave for.
Right. Well, that was my sister-in-law Maria at that time, like, coming to me and saying, I have, like, a really important reason why your character should come back. So I would always listen to those, and when it would make sense, I was all for it.
Sometimes, I like that.
Sometimes we were brought in and it just made no sense. But she would always come to me and say, like, Paul's trial, or the whole thing with Paul's son, like, if you were to come in and then represent him, like, it just makes sense. And so I loved doing that. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, when they brought Philip back from the dead, and then with the Ronan thing with Nina, you were there for a while for that, and that was cool. And the Chance with faking his death, I remember that was another one. And so you have these great story arcs, which I think is better than, when Michael Damian, they bring him back for one episode here, one episode there, like 2-3 months apart. It's kind of like, I like to see somebody with a storyline, So
exactly.
I'm glad that at least hopefully they'll still do that with you, because if they just have you just appear like once or twice a month just to have your little court hearing or something, I just think that would be a disappointment to the fans.
Right. No, and I appreciate that, and I get that. Like, I was asked to come back about a year and a half ago to do something quick with Michael, and I said, it's not the right time. It's like a party scene. We'll have, like, 10 words with each other. It's just like, that's almost like, it's pointless. So that's why we waited and did something bigger a few months later. But yeah, I'm totally on board with, like, how you think, because it's like, if it doesn't make sense, our viewers are so loyal and so bright and so, great that it's like, vocal, that it is silly to just, like, tease something and then drop it. Because it's so weird, like, for, Paul and I were like, we're getting back together, I'm moving back in, and then, we're not doing anything.
I thought you and Paul, or Christine and Paul, I hate it when people, remember I text these people on Twitter who can't separate the actor from the character, so I have to make sure I don't do that. That was with Christine and Paul. I really thought that they were going to end up adopting Jamie, the kid that was bullied by Fenn and Summer. I thought that was going to happen. I thought it was like a red herring that he left.
That's a great idea. Yeah. Although I don't know how I'm going to feel about a boy all taller than me looking down and saying, Mom.
Just wear heels. Just a platform.
I'm just kidding. So, my son does now for the first time. It's so weird. But that's fine. I was watching the other day too, and it's funny with Sharon, with Sharon and her son. They look like they could be like the hot new couple.
Yeah, well, I know. Do you notice they don't show Robert Adamson and Joshua Morrow in the same shot together? Right. Yeah. Because they're too close in age. They have like Joshua Morrow and like harsher lighting to make him look older or scruff, and they have Robert Adamson and like softer lighting because they're only like 10 years apart, And I think Trisha told me that they did the math and she would have had to have been 10 or 11 when she gave birth to Ronan based on Jeff Branson's age or something.
It's so
well, she was supposed to be 15,
I love soap opera aging.
Exactly.
I know.
It's great.
Well,
and then we always add that line. There's something different about you.
Yes, they did that with, who did they just say that with recently? I don't know. But, it's funny, they rapid age the kids and somehow the parents get younger.
How does that even work, right?
And it's like, it's like at first you're like, wait a minute, she's 55 and having a baby? Oh, it doesn't matter because in 5 years the kid will be 20, so it's okay. Now, what's your favorite? What is your favorite Christine storyline over the years?
That's so
must
hard.
Be really hard.
It is. I mean, it's really about her evolving from sort of like a kid to a strong woman. It's just, it was definitely a process, but I mean, just going from being timid to being strong, and that really encompasses like the date rape, sexual harassment, meeting Paul, like Danny leaving and Paul becoming such a significant part. Because that was a huge thing. I mean, we had audiences that were so Danny Cricket that when Doug and when we knew Michael was leaving and then Doug and I were going to be put together, it was scary because it's like, how do you, especially for him, because he thought, how do I come in the middle of this? But, my dad did it so well and in such real time and like, having it become a friendship way first and having him comfort her from her like sadness of Danny leaving, like, just those months of slowly growing the relationship was so brilliant because, very often things are, they go so fast now that you just, in the end, we're all people and, we either buy a relationship or we don't. And if the roots aren't set, and if you don't like know the characters so well and, our characters are known, they're fans that would say like, oh, they would never do that or that would never happen.
Right.
But because they know us and because the time was like taken to build a relationship, it was an amazing thing to see like, the spectrum going over from oh, we love Cricket and Danny to, oh, Paul and Chris are so cool because they're like, he made her adults and, it's not just a teen crush on a rock star. It's like, this is real. Mm-hmm. And so, like, just all those years were so great just because it was just fun to sort of evolve as a person and a character and everything.
I remember that too.
That doesn't answer your question.
No, it does. No, I remember that very storyline, the way when Danny left and how the friendship with Christine and Paul built slowly, and it made perfect sense. And then Danny came back, and Christine was torn again, I remember. And, but I totally do remember that. I remember thinking that, okay, this makes sense, because people, become a good relationship is based on friendship first. And,
and then I think, and then she was an adult, and then she realized, I have this good guy who when he says he'll be home, or I have this other good guy, but the reality is he's going to go where his concert tour takes him, and he's going to have millions of girls around him. So it's sort of like an adult decision. Do I stick with someone who I love and who I can count on, or do I gamble with the, exciting life of the rock star? And so, I think every woman wants to be with both. A little bit of the dangerous and a little bit of the secure.
Yeah.
But, her staying with Paul sort of showed that she's finally an adult making a smart decision.
Unless they brought it back again.
I know, unless they brought it exactly.
And it's just like, what?
Then she was tortured by Isabella. I mean, poor Christine, she was stalked by Michael Baldwin and attempted rape, and he had the hole drilled in the wall or whatever, and then Isabella, and just all kinds of crazy stuff happened to her, poor girl. I'm surprised she doesn't have PTSD now I think about it.
Yeah.
She's got to have something really wrong with her. We see that, now we don't see her much, so maybe she's, spending her days in an asylum and coming out at night. Who knows?
Yeah, right. She's on an outpatient release program. Well, some of those moments with Kristen Phillips where, we saw some of the dark side of Christine. It's like, wow, she's been holding anger in for many years. And that's too bad that I expected some last blowout with you and Michelle Stafford. I really did. But
maybe we can have the parody. What's it called when they do a show off a show? I'm blanking on the one. Spin-off. We can have a spin-off.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Yeah, it's you'd be like Alexis and Crystal from Dynasty,
Exactly.
But then you guys realize you really love each other and become lovers.
Exactly. Fantastic.
Well, that's the funny thing was when they brought
now we are possibly on HBO or Showtime, which I love even more. Straight.
Yeah, well, we're uncensored here. We're uncensored on the internet now. Tom Beards and I have been friends for a few years, and he speaks very highly of you too. But when they brought him back, it was kind of like, okay, they brought this character back from the dead, and wow, there's a gay character in the Restless, and okay, we're sending him back to Australia.
I know.
And I mean, did you have any insight as to? Somebody said that they thought perhaps there's some demographic in that where Y&R is very popular that wouldn't be so receptive to that kind of storyline because pretty much all the other soaps have tackled that issue.
Right. And I find that hard to believe. I feel like it's such an educated audience.
That's what I'm wondering.
I don't know. I have no idea. People love seeing Philip and Nina and all of those characters back.
I know.
So it's really I try and understand the logic, and I can't. So I can't imagine that it's not that. I can't imagine that it was a far-fetched storyline. I mean, it's people, it's lives, it's just life. So I don't know.
Right.
I have no answer.
Okay, well, I was just curious, because if they bring someone back from the dead, I mean, it just would seem like it was kind of a dropped thing. Yeah. And people do want the vets back, people want to see more of you, people want more of Paul, Michael Damian. I think if, Eileen Davidson is amazing as Kristen on Days of Our Lives, they should bring Ben Epperson back as Ashley, because she's so missed, and I'm glad that Stephanie was back, so,
I know, isn't that great?
Yeah, it's good. We interviewed Beth. She was awesome. So I've been on the Bring Back Brenda campaign for a while. So, but I think Dan has a question for you.
Oh, well, yeah. I was just saying, when you guys were talking about, they dropped the gay storyline. I don't know if you guys have heard this, but Cheerios is getting a lot of backlash right now for featuring an interracial couple in their commercials. Yeah. Which it's kind of hard to believe that people still get upset about that in this day and age.
I can't believe
I think Young and the Restless has tended to kind of play it safer,
right?
In terms of those types of storylines. Do you agree?
I mean, I guess I don't think. I can't imagine intentionally. I know that my dad was very. We grew up in the Midwest, and he was very. He didn't get out much. I mean, I don't mean to be funny about that, but he wrote all the time, and we'd go to the same 4 restaurants, and we'd do the same thing. So I don't want to say he lived in a bubble, but he knew how to tell a great story about human beings. So I just don't know that, he didn't know, when we would say, do you want to try the computer? He looked at us like we were out of our minds. Why would he ever leave the typewriter? So I just don't think he had the time to see what was happening in the world. So I don't think it was on purpose, but the Cheerios thing, I can't even
get that.
Can't get it. But
it's so ridiculous.
Your father was credited for having, like, I remember reading in magazine years ago when they brought in the Winters and the Barber family and stuff, saying that he had the most integrated African Americans in any soap opera on television. And it wasn't like he was treating them as the black characters; they were just the characters, you know.
Of course, he never saw color. He never saw age. He never saw, you know, it was just his family. Like he really he thought of people only as people, which is what people are. And
that's how it should be.
Right. So I don't we may be known as playing it safe, but I don't know. I mean, I think we've pushed the envelope a few times, but
I think definitely. I think it's only with the gay thing that they played it safe for some reason. I'm not sure why, but
well, because people still get upset about it, which is it's incredible in this day and age that people do, but the world we live in.
Right.
We knew Kane and Lily, they're a interracial couple. They're the super couple popular, you know.
Right.
So I don't think it's that, but for some reason it's, you know. But I've heard, you know, several actors say if your dad were still here, then things would probably be different. And everybody has nothing but great things to say about him. Jeannie Cooper had nothing but great things to say about him.
Yeah, they had a really sweet relationship. They had so much respect for each other, which was great. She was, you know, she was just incredible.
I heard she wasn't afraid to tell him what she thought too.
No, and I think, you know, in the end, I mean, I think that's part of why I love the kind of growth of my character. Is my father really appreciated opinions. He was not, even though he came from a time where a lot of the women, and you know, my mom had to like get her guts up too, which were just like, you know, yes dear, or whatever. I don't know. When he would listen to women like come in and like come right at him and say, this is what I think and this is what I think you can do better, like that would shock him. But I think in the end, he was very impressed with a voice, and not being afraid to, you know, speak up and be heard. And Jeannie would never, hold back ever. She'd say, Bill, this is great, or Bill, what is this? And, you know, I'm not, you know, like she was great. And she should, you know, I can't say enough about her, so.
He wrote the best material for her, too. It was amazing. Like, their character, I went back and watched some of the old YouTube clips from the early days, you know. We did a tribute show to Jeannie after she passed, and I had never actually seen Brenda Dixon as Jill. But I saw some of the scenes with her and Philip, and she was signing the divorce papers, and I was like, wow, this is so cutting edge for its time in the 70s.
It was.
And she was just like, it's like, wow, you know, she had the same living room. It was amazing how, you know.
Can you believe that set? That set has lived longer.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, now they're shooting it from a different angle, and I know when the new regime, I don't know if you noticed this, when the new regime took over, the first time Tracy Bregman did a scene with Jess, they had it shot so all you could see was Tracy's hair. She looked like Cousin It, and I tweeted, I was joking, I'm like, Tracy, I think it's time for a haircut. luckily Tracy can take a joke, so. You know,
exactly. We'd all walk in and we'd like stand there and we'd sort of look, and we'd be like, now wait, was this over here? You know, it's so funny to still kind of trying to figure out, we've been in that set forever, and then you just rotate it a little bit, and we're all like lost.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, Jill Byrne.
She had her house feng shuied, I guess.
Yes, right. Now, the Genoa City Athletic Club. I always come back to that.
Oh, everything goes down at the athletic club.
That's where everybody has their stairs, or everybody stays when they're getting divorced or separated or whatever. But can't they come up with a better name for the place?
So you know,
Genoa City Athletic Club.
So as you know, it's in our script. It's known as the GCAC. So I don't know if we ever. I don't know if people call that on the show. It's funny you should bring that up because I don't ever like to talk negative about anything at work, but I'm uncomfortable working in that set. I don't find the chairs comfortable. Like if I'm at the bar, like you have to lean way too forward. My husband and I are huge bar people. Like we like to, if we're just running out, we like to, instead of a table, we'd rather sit at the bar and have a burger and a glass of wine. I love the bar. So when the seat, like there's a round thing at the base, so you can't scooched forward, so you're sort of leaning way over into the bar, or there's there's a little couch area, and the seats are sort of, you either have to sit on the edge or you have to sit way back. And then there's that revolving door that people, I don't know why, when you're on, like if it's in life, it's not a big deal, but when you're working, a revolving door is like, it just throws you a bit. So as much.
It throws me anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, it's the GCAC is a little funny for me. So
I think they should change the name. They should. I mean, it's like this 4 or 5 star. Oh, and by the way, I asked Jeannie Cooper, where's Gina Roma been? She's like, she got her head stuck in the oven and making lasagna, and she got sucked into another dimension, something like that.
Oh my gosh, I know. And
she said, maybe she's up with Murphy having an affair.
Yeah, I don't. I know. I miss Gina's. Oh, that's why the GCAC's there. Gina's burnt down. That was a sad day.
Right, but we
had some great, where Danny used to break into song at Gina's.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot about Gina's.
The Colonnade Room, but that's probably too expensive. I miss the Colonnade Room.
Yeah, it could be. Gosh, I haven't heard that term in so long. The Colonnade Room just meant you were going to wear sequins and a tuxedo, and an updo. I would have a bad updo, but those were fun days. Oh.
Right.
Since you guys brought up all the hot spots, they do have quite a few drinking scenes on The Young and the Restless. Now, do they let you guys drink, like for real?
No. The only time, I mean, Doug and I are always the pathetic ones that are like, well, if we're opening a bottle of wine on camera, it has to have a cork in it, and none of this new twist off thing, because then they could twist it off and fill it and refill it. So, I mean, It's been so rare that there's been a little bit of red wine in something, but no, usually it's not so tasty.
Yeah. Do they have real coffee? Do they actually real coffee, Crimson Lights at least?
Yeah, real coffee.
They do have real coffee. Okay, because I noticed nobody ever finishes a drink on the show. People go to Catherine Chancellor's and they get Esther brings them tea or whatever, or they go to the GCAC and meet up with somebody for a meeting, and they'll order a drink and have 2 sips and then leave it on the table and leave. Nobody ever.
If it was filled with real stuff, I'm sure we'd see the glasses go down further. But
Larry Hagman said on Dallas, when he was supposed to be drinking, he really was. Getting home back in the day.
That's just fun. I want to be on that show. And we have a spin-off of Cricket and Phyllis. There will be alcohol on the set.
Now, I don't know if it still is, but it used to be illegal to drink on television real alcohol.
Well, but the internet, you and Michelle Stafford should start a web series. Well, although they probably wouldn't give you the rights to the names, but you could probably find a loophole.
My character has so many. We could be the Bug, so I'm known as the Bug. I could be the Bug, and she could be. We'll think of something great for her.
Doesn't Christine have a nickname for Phyllis? Doesn't she have some derogatory slurs?
Well, we could be like the Bitch and the Bug.
The Bitch and the Bug, right?
Yeah.
Now, I remember they recast her for a year or two in the mid-'90s, and she was pretty good, I think. I mean, I was younger. I wasn't watching it every day then, like I am now. But I don't see that they could recast Michelle at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely you'd have to find someone who has no inhibitions. It can't be. My thought is, it would.
I know, right?
Yeah, it would have to. I would definitely take a break because people aren't going to buy it for a while. But I mean, you bring up Sandra Nelson, who did a great job during that interim. I mean, maybe the audience would be very welcoming of her. So I mean, that would be definitely worth investigating. She did a great job.
Yeah, I was thinking if anybody, maybe something they've had. Like I think when Brenda took over for Eileen, she came in like the next day and they bathed her in shadows. I watched her first scenes, and then like they gradually faded her up, but she looked so much like Eileen that half people didn't even notice the difference.
It's true.
Very well received. So she was my first Ashley, so when she left, I was very upset. You know, but as far as recast goes, she was really good. But the recast Michelle would be tough, I think. But I don't know. I looked at Sandra Nelson on IMDb.
Hey, maybe I could go red and be Phyllis.
Oh yeah.
Maybe you could.
And like the audience knows that it's me being red, but I'm convinced. Like Cricket's gone off her rocker, and she truly believes she's Phyllis.
That would be awesome. Like, what was that movie where they had the crazy roommate? What was that?
Oh yeah. Oh yes. It's that.
called?
Oh, so
what
good.
What was that movie called?
I actually saw that movie with Michael Damon. That's funny you should say that. And she tried Jennifer Jason Leigh, and she dressed just like her.
Yes. Oh, single white female.
Yes.
Single white female.
Yes. Thank you.
I love it.
That would be funny.
And like we never address it, and people like only call me Phyllis.
Right. Well, like they do in General Hospital. General Hospital with the whole Prospect Park and thing where they had the 3 actors who are under contract in ABC, but the characters are owned by Prospect Park. They had to bring them back as different characters, and they all changed their hair color. Well, 2 out of 3, and they just they're just these different people now.
That is just funny.
I could see actually Laura Wright, if she were a redhead, she reminds me of Michelle Stafford in a lot of ways. I don't know. I think she has the fire, and but she's really good as Carly in General Hospital. So we'll just have to see. It's going to be tough with her leaving and without Ashley, and I just and they need to bring you back on more and keep Tracy, and and you need some strong. The presence of strong women over 40 is kind of lacking in the show, except for Lauren, which I'm glad that Tracy's role has been boosted up because I love Tracy and she's awesome.
She's so good.
Yeah. She's kind of
it's amazing how all of you look, over 40. I can't believe it.
Well, I've seen some candids and without Patty's makeup work and the lighting.
I was saying to people the other day, it's like maybe CBS pumped the oxygen that they do in Vegas, like inside the building. But I'm telling you, I mean, it's very kind, but makeup helps us so much, and lighting is key.
I noticed that just from like my own digital camera, because I'm trying to work on shooting a music video. I still need somebody to operate it for me, but my iMac has an HD camera, and if I do it with natural light right before the sun goes down, like I look 10 years younger than if I do it in artificial light at night.
Have you ever seen this? There's a Seinfeld episode where he's dating this girl, and it's exactly what happens. Like he's taking her out on a date, and then all of a sudden they get in the car, and she's got the overhead kind of dark lighting, and she ages like 10 years, and he's like, oh, and then he sees her again, and then like they sit them down at a restaurant, and it's terrible lighting, but it is weird how lighting can really pop those lines out and in. Yeah.
No, I definitely know that. It's for sure. It's like.
That's why moonlighting. Sybil Shepherd, she had that light. She had that diffuser.
Yes, they did. She was always like angelic,
Yeah.
And then Donna Reed, when she played Miss Ellie for a season in Dallas, I remember I was reading that they had to put really harsh light on her to make her look old enough to be Larry Hagman's mother, because they were pretty close in age or something like that.
Right. Now lighting's amazing.
But so now I remember another Christine storyline when she took in the crack addict.
Oh yeah. I don't remember too much about it, but I know what you're referring to. My memory is shot because of memorizing and forgetting every day for so many years that I have relationships before I was married that I really don't. If you were to say, what did you do? Name one thing you did with this person you dated for 6 months. I couldn't tell you one thing.
I'm sure your husband's happy about that.
Yeah, he is. He is very happy about that. There's only you, Scott.
Well, that's good.
So yeah, I vaguely remember that storyline, and she was Carrie Cupsnett. She was so great and cute. but I don't really remember. I mean, I know I helped her because that's what I did, but I don't know. I don't know what else. But that was another good one.
Here's another summer storyline. It seemed like your father always put in, like, kind of in the summer, he kind of geared a lot of stuff towards teens and things to be watching it more.
Yeah.
And definitely it caught me, and I used to tape it, and I went to school, come home and watch it, and
he was always right, and I was so nervous because we were kind of, teaching a lesson, and then I would turn on my friends on another soap, and they'd be young teens, in bed and giggling and stuff, and I thought, oh my God, I think I might want to watch these kids in bed giggling, and then, the ratings would come, and sure enough, he was right about, I think you like to be preached at, but it was preached at in a very subtle way, and then there were, if it would come off our storyline, there would be, Victor and Nikki being romantic. So he knew how to blend it well.
Definitely.
Just put hidden messages.
Well, people tune into soap operas for drama. They tune into comedy for comedy. So, yeah, he was right on the money with that one.
Yeah.
I tune into soaps for both. It's true, though. Sometimes they're funny,
Oh, they are. Sometimes they're very funny.
I mean, I don't take them too seriously. Some people, I think, you see people on Twitter, and they get so, I can understand it because they've been watching these characters, in their living rooms or whatever for years, some of them.
Yeah.
And, I've moved across the country twice in the past 3 years, and there were times when I didn't have any friends yet where I was living, so the characters named the rest was from my old friends. But it's like, I don't take it that seriously where I kind of suspend reality,
Right. Well, I think, it is taking it seriously, but I think they're just passionate about knowing the characters so well that they get upset when they feel it's not something that their character would do. Like, that's the great thing about the show. Like, so many of us have been on for so long. So there's no question, like, everyone who watches, they know that person. They know what they would say. They know what they would do. And so I think it's more about getting frustrated, like catching us in a mistake that they feel like, I know you so well, you would never do that. And so
yeah, like the 180 that Christine did with Danny and Paul. Did you get any flack? I know that was due to the regime change, but did you get any flack for that?
Thanks for picking out one that involves me.
Well, I'm just because I'm talking to you.
No, I'm kidding. I know you are. I mean, the good thing is she spent her time with both of them, so it was like a 50-50 thing. But you're right. She had just said to Danny, like, let's make this work. And then two weeks later, like, actually, no. So she was just like, she was trying to screw him over because he did that to her.
I felt bad for Michael Damian because I really like him,
Me too. Trust me. It's really hard. I love both Doug and Michael, and it's really, there couldn't have been a bad choice. The only bad choice would have been if I didn't see them at, like, I would be great with a triangle for about 5 years.
Yeah, they should have done that. And Nina too, with Trisha, they could have had a square or quadrangle.
See, I think that exactly. I think Nina should not have found out for months that I had feelings for Paul again.
I know. I think
it was so great. And she'd come out because she lives in Tennessee, and she would stay with us when Nina was in. So I loved it. Like, I couldn't wait. And then, now I don't see her as much.
Trisha's awesome. I love Trisha. I love Michael and Doug. I haven't gotten the chance to talk to all of them. And I love everybody from your show. They're awesome. They're so awesome.
So are you.
Wouldn't it be great if they brought Nina and Danny back at the same time?
I think they should.
Like, Danny finds Nina.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's all. I mean, it's my group, so I might be biased, but they're fantastic, and there's history there, and it would be great. Have your people send it out. Have them do their thing.
I'll work on it.
Have your kids spread it through the universe.
Do you have time to take a call?
Kids get those messages across quickly.
They do.
Someone's been holding to talk to you. Do you have time to take a call?
Oh, I do. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Casey, are you there? Casey, you're on the Lauralee.
I am. Hi,
Hey,
Lauralee.
Casey.
You are.
How are you?
Well, Rob kind of asked one of the questions I had, and that was, what was your favorite storyline? But I'll go more like, what's your favorite thing about being a mom?
Oh, wow.
In real life.
Gosh, I mean, I love it because they're at that 10 and 12 age where it's not so physical, and I only complain about the homework because that's stressing me out beyond belief. But I just love, I love it. I love the age right now because I don't want to say that I'm like their friends, because there will be people that are like, you have to be their mother, you can't be their friend. But I love hanging out with them, and I love the homemade Mother's Day cards that they didn't write them just because their teacher said, now everybody write, dear mom, I love you. Now they're writing like, I love you to the moon and back. Like they're even though that's the saying, I love you to the moon and back. They're expressing their feelings, and I love both of them in different ways, and I love having a boy and a girl, and I love the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's great. It's not to say that I can't wait for our date nights and think about the time that they'll be, and hope that maybe one day they'll each get asked on a sleepover at the same time on the same night, but that never happens.
Can you orchestrate that somehow? Okay, you can orchestrate that, right?
Right, exactly. But other than that, I love this time because they're becoming young adults, and it's sort of exciting to see how their personalities and everything is becoming independent from us.
Right.
Now that they're grown up, I'm sorry, just one quick question. Now that they're grown up, would you consider going back on contract if they were to offer you, when your kids are, kind of self-sufficient?
Like I have my father in me, so I'm really trying to sell a nighttime show right now. There's a part of me that I would love to work on the show as much as I can, but I just want to know that if anything were to move forward with creating something that I'm trying to start, if I could have that out, that would be,
Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Can you tell us?
I mean, it really is like a nighttime soap. I mean, it's really, cool. for us, for our time, I miss Knots Landing. I miss 90210. Like, I miss those shows that I couldn't wait to. So I sort of, I'm trying to start one of those up.
Oh, nice. Revenge was good for the first season, and then kind of disappointed me for the next season, the second season, because I thought that was like best of Allison Dynasty, but kind of like modernized and revamped.
Right. My husband and I started a couple of these webisodes, and like part of it wouldn't be with this show, but years ago, I wanted to start a show which is like our little webisode Just Off Rodeo, where you can watch the episode and then produce the clothing because I did this like 10 years ago, where you could have like, let's say you watched Friends and then you liked what Jennifer Aniston was wearing, you could have at your door 3 days later, like the t-shirt that she was wearing. So we made Just Off Rodeo and merchandise some clothes so you could watch it, and right under the frame, you never leave the site and like go to Gap or Kmart. It's the actual production.
Right, Kmart.
Yeah, right. So we produced the clothes, so you just go right under the frame and press click, and it's at your door in 3 days. So like I still am like trying to add like a marketing value to these shows too, because I think in this day you have to have like so much extra to like push the PR, to get it talked about, to like, it would be like voting for American Idol, but you'd be racing to get like the $100,000 t-shirts that are in production for that episode.
That's so cool. I mean, because Angelica McDaniel is, I mean, one of the reasons that CBS Daytime continues to be number one is her amazing usage of social media, because you do not see any of the other networks, ABC or NBC, with their soaps doing any of what she's doing.
Exactly. Absolutely.
You're all so cool.
It's a great group of people who love what they do, and that does show through. And nobody, people don't want to leave, and so they've been that same, they've been that same Mrs. Chancellor, and they've been that same
Paul Williams.
Paul Williams, exactly. So it's great.
And then, George Guzman and Patty, I mean, they're awesome too. And he was so funny, and George, and he's got great stories. And
love George.
So, you guys rock. I love you all. You rock, and I will support you till the day I die.
Aw, thank you. Well, right back at you. We're here. We're just a phone call away.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yes, have to come back on.
I will.
Yeah, we get a tweet about
when the spin-off starts with, I'll talk to Michelle and get back to you.
Let us know when he gets her nighttime show going.
Oh my God.
Definitely.
If you have half of your father's, whatever in you, I'll be, so excited, and the world would be so happy to see that. It'd be so awesome.
I'm proud of him, so I'm trying to take everything he taught me and do good with it, so we'll see.
And your mom was a pioneer in the talk show. I mean, talk show world. She was pre-Oprah, right?
Yes. Yeah, I interviewed Marilyn Monroe and all those fantastic icons.
My God.
So it's really
tell your mom she's my hero.
Oh, incredible.
And Bonnie Forward speaks so highly of your mom and you.
Oh.
So,
very cool.
Thank you again.
We appreciate it, really. I can't tell you how much. I will track you down soon.
Okay. Have a great night.
Thanks, guys. All right, have a good night.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Lauralee. Bye-bye.
That was cool. Wow.
It was great.
This is Round One Radio.